Hello, class. Let's pick up where we left off with Hamlet, Act 2, Scene 2. Notice in the opening of the scene, as Claudius and Gertrude sent for Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, they say, "Moreover, that we much did long to see you. The need we have to use you did provoke our hasty sending." They don't euphemize it. They don't sugarcoat it. They tell them, "We need you. We need you to spy on Hamlet and tell us what's wrong with him." And again, if you notice on lines 33, 34, and 35, Claudius calls them Rosencrantz and Gentle Guildenstern, and Gertrude has to correct him and say, no, no, that's Guildenstern and that's Gentle Rosencrantz. He doesn't even know who is whom. It shows you how much they're using them. Now, again, manipulation and things of that nature are a big part of this play, and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, unfortunately, are manipulated by Claudius to spy on Hamlet. Polonius then enters and says that he's found the cause of Hamlet's lunacy, um, and he wants to tell Gertrude and Claudius says, "Hold on, we've got to hear what happened in Norway." The ambassadors come back and they say, "Don't worry, don't worry. Norway's not going to attack Denmark. They just want to quietly pass through." Talk about a euphemism, on their way to Poland. Now, remember, these are times of hand to hand combat. So, if you're going to pass through one country to attack another, the whole reason why they're on watch is so that they don't enter into Denmark. Because if they enter into Denmark and Denmark's not ready for war, right, then they'll be vulnerable. So they're on watch. That way, if they can see them coming, they can prepare. But it almost seems as though now Norway's flipping it on them, saying, no, 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 we're not going to come through your country to attack you. We're just going to quietly pass through. Interesting. Claudius thinks this is a wonderful idea because, again, I think we see a lot of times he's all about putting a spin on things, right? Remember that opening scene, right? Oh, yeah, sure, Laertes, do whatever you want. Norway, back off. We got this. Hamlet, we want you to stay here. Remember, he seems to have Denmark's best interests in mind. But when we finish our discussion of the conclusion of the play, we'll look back at that opening scene and we'll see how those three things turned out. Could he have maybe handled the situation with Norway differently? Could he have maybe handled the situation with Laertes differently? And could he maybe have handled the situation with Hamlet differently? But again, as appearances go, in that opening scene, it's very important because symbolically that's truly Claudius's personality. He wants to make everything seem like it's okay. Now, ambassadors leave. Polonius reads love letters from Hamlet to Ophelia. Now, remember, Polonius's assumption is that Hamlet does not love Ophelia, that he only wants to sleep with her, and that he's not going to marry her. That's why he tells her, don't sleep with him. And she will not talk to him. She will not see him. Right? As we know, he barges in her closet. Now, if Claudius's assumption is, or, I'm sorry, excuse me, if Polonius assumes this to be the case, why doesn't he accept after reading these letters? They're proof that maybe he's wrong. When people don't want to admit they're wrong, it's illogical. And one of the words that is a very big part of literature and analyzing literature and life is hubris. Hubris. It's the Greek word for excessive confidence. We would call someone arrogant or cocky. It's the opposite of humility, right? Hubris is arrogance, whereas humility is being humble. The opposite between being cocky and being humble. It's very important in life to be humble. And it's also very important in life to be humble and to accept that perhaps you may be wrong. So Polonius at first tells Ophelia to not talk to and not see Hamlet. Okay, how does that work out? He barges in her closet and assaults her. Then he finds the love letters, and instead of saying, maybe I was wrong, maybe he really does love her, he says, no, 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 I still think I'm right. Let's spy on him. And they devise this plan to spy on him, where Claudius and Polonius will watch. Notice how in this scene, Polonius is so sure that he thinks is right. Right? He tells Claudius and Gertrude, if I'm wrong, you can take my job. And at one point, he even hints you could take my life. He says, you could take this from this, if this be this, meaning you can chop my head off my body. When you look at the love letter, I mean, I think we see Polonius's hubris here. And quite frankly, if Claudius did what the ghost said he did, we see his hubris as well. Because to commit a crime and think you're going to get away with it is an act of arrogance. Everybody else has to follow the rules and you don't. Furthermore, if he did what the ghost said and he murdered his brother, usurped the throne from Hamlet, and married the queen, I mean, it doesn't get more arrogant than that. So when you look at the love letter, lines 115, right? Doubt thou the stars are fire, doubt that the sun doth move, doubt truth to be a liar, but never doubt I love. That's pretty beautiful. And quite frankly, he says, Thine evermore, most dear lady, whilst this machine is to him, is how he ends it. And then he has, Oh dear Ophelia, I'm ill at these numbers. I have no art to reckon my groans. And the only way that I can tell you how I feel is by writing it down. So not only does he tell her that he loves her, but while this machine is to him, I'll love you till I die. So kind of sounds like wedding vows to me in some ways. So I think we see Hamlet's love was genuine. Now, if that's the case, imagine how he must feel right now. His father's died. His uncles married his mother and usurped the throne, and they're soiling the memory of his father. And now the girl that he loves will not talk to him, will not see him, has basically cut off all contact with him, right? I mean, put yourself in his position. That's why he's trying to make sense of this all. And I think that we could easily look at Hamlet and remember back in the day, they didn't have modern psychology. Yet a lot of people say Shakespeare, right, is in some ways writing about things that we now have modern psychological terms for. And I think that's true. Depression, anxiety, angst. These are all things that are exhibited in Hamlet. Is it maybe multiple personality disorder? Is he suffering, right, from schizophrenia? Is he suffering from PTSD? Um, again, there's a lot going on in this play, and that is why Hamlet is trying to find out the truth. He needs proof. He needs premises to support his inference, right? The inference, based on what the ghost told him, is that Claudius killed his father, but he has no facts yet. So that's why he's acting crazy, because he can't call up the police. He can't just accuse Claudius. Remember, Claudius is the king. So we see at the end of Act Two the first time Hamlet is confronted when he's acting crazy. And he says a lot of things to Polonius, right? Because Polonius, after he leaves Claudius and Gertrude, he sees Hamlet reading, and he comes up to him and he has a conversation with him. And what Polonius says is, "Though this be madness, yet there is method in it." And that's line 204. Why? Because he recognizes, even though Hamlet's acting crazy, there's still something logical about it. Why? Well, first he asks him if he has a daughter. Then he says, don't let her lie in the sun, meaning sleep with someone who's royal, right? Remember when Hamlet says, I'm too much in the sun? That idea of the sunshine of the royal favor. So I think in this encounter with Polonius, you could see how his craziness. He's saying things to try to elicit responses from Polonius to determine his reaction. So in addition to trying to find out whether or not Claudius killed his father by acting crazy, I think this scene we see he's trying to find out whether or not Polonius is behind the fact that Ophelia will not speak to him or see him anymore. And at one point, Polonius says, right after, though this be madness, yet there's method in it, 3 lines down, line 208, he says, how pregnant his replies are. Meaning he says one thing and it gives birth to another idea. So we see that his antic disposition is working. And although one may say, be careful, if you act crazy, you might go crazy, that's something for you to consider as the play continues. Because, again, when people have multiple personalities, we don't necessarily look at that as a positive thing nowadays. And in fact, we have psychological conditions attributed to that, appropriated according to that. So keep that in mind as the play is moving along. But we see at this point, Hamlet is still using the antic disposition to find out what's going on. And I think in Act 2, Scene 2, we learn a lot. We learn that through the love letters that he does love her. We learn that when he's speaking with Polonius, right, he's trying to uncover the truth. And we also uncover the plan for um, Polonius and Claudius, right? They decide they're going to hide behind a curtain and have Ophelia pretend to be reading a book, and then watch watch what happens when she confronts Hamlet. Now, again, if I may, logically, if you want to know something, shouldn't you just ask the person a question, or should you spy on them? Should you manipulate the situation by making Ophelia appear one way when in reality she's another? We see they are duplicity here. Duplicity is double dealing. It's essentially being dishonest. So, two main themes are apparent in this play, and I think they're really coming to life here in Act 2, Scene 2. We have hubris, which is arrogance, versus humility, right? Being cocky, being arrogant versus being humble. We also have the idea of duplicity, right? Both negative. Hubris and duplicity are negative, whereas humility and honesty are the opposite. So, last thing I'll say is that when people in the plays and also in life are going to be duplicitous, they're going to lie, they're going to cheat, they're going to steal, they're manipulate you. They're not going to tell you up front. Nobody says, "Oh, by the way, don't ask any questions tomorrow. I'm going to cheat on you tonight." Oh, by the way, make sure you put all the big bills in the front. I'm going to rob your wallet while you're sleeping. Again, so we see duplicity at work here. Thank you for your patience. More to come. Up next, Act 3, Scene 1.